Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. We are the Legal Technology Media Group, and today's session is 30 events in 60 minutes. I have the great pleasure today of sharing the stage with Cathy Kenton, my partner in the Legal Technology Media Group and director of our Legal Vendor Mastermind program. If you have not met Cathy, she is an absolute delight to work with and one of the most experienced people in our industry. I consider her to be an expert, especially on the topic that we have today in front of us today. So Cathy, thank you so much for joining me in the session. And to give you a little bit of background on us and what we'll be talking about, Cathy is the founder of Legal Vendor Strategies and also my partner in the Legal Technology Media Group. She's got more than 25 years of legal sales and marketing experience and works with our clients to help them deliver and figure out the right messaging, strategy, and actually executing campaigns that are going to turn into ROI. So a lot of what has gone into today's presentation came from the two of us collaborating in our direct experiences working trade shows all over the country for years and years and knowing exactly which ones work out and which ones don't. So Cathy, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Happy to be there here, Chelsey. Thank you.
No problem. And then a little bit of background on myself. I'm the founder of Legal Technology Media Group as well as Lex Tech Review. So I have spent a good portion of my career personally working booths at a lot of the events that you're going to hear us talk about today. And the one thing I really want to drive home in this presentation is this, that we are sharing this information with you so that you can help your organization get the most out of every marketing dollar that you spend. There's nothing worse than booking an event and expecting to come home with 100 leads and only coming home with a few or none at all. So what we're going to do today is this is going to be a rapid fire session between Cathy and I. You can feel free to enter your questions into the questions pane and we will address them at the end. We're going to move through things pretty quickly. So first, let's talk a little bit about event strategy and goal setting. And as you think about your plan for 2018, building your metrics into that plan of what you expect to get out of it. Are you expecting to build brand awareness or are you expecting to come home with leads? Because those are two very different goals and you will attend different shows to achieve those goals. And then also, how many leads do you need to generate in the course of over the course of a year from all of your different media campaigns, whether that be events or digital or email marketing or leveraging lists of other media groups or providers. And then what defines a meaningful conversation for you is something that we always talk about when we are planning for events. So what is the definition of conversion? Conversion is really easy to measure when it's coming through your website. Somebody fills out a form and requests a consultation or wants to book a demo of your software. Well, what does that mean when you're in the booth? And that'll also help you just keep these things in the back of your mind as we go through each one of the events today. And whether it's brand awareness where maybe you're not having that many conversations, but you're attending an event, you have a big presence there, people are seeing your brand and associating you with supporting that particular organization or being an innovator in the space. And then the other type of conversation might be actually booking an appointment or getting a lead that needs to be followed up with by sales for actual revenue generation. So we do have
Chelsey, I'd like to add there that while this is not a webinar on how to prepare for an event, I'd just like to add that whether you attend one event or you do 20 events in a year, you should always have a plan ahead of time. You should, in addition to the metrics, in addition to having a plan for how many leads you're going to generate, you should have a pre-show and at the show and a post-show plan in place before you ever leave for the show. If your plan is to email leads that you generate from the show, have those emails ready, have that drip campaign ready to go so that you're not coming home from the show and scrambling trying to figure out what are we going to do with all these leads. We've seen it time and time again. You get busy, you think you'll take care of it later. Later comes, and people end up with business cards on their desk that they never do anything with leads that they've captured that they never do anything with, and just making your numbers isn't enough. You've got to execute on the plan. So understand and plan your strategy all the way through.
Absolutely, Cathy, and I'm so happy that you added that, because the pre and post-show communication is something that you haven't been in the office for a few days. You've got hundreds of emails in your inbox. You're just trying to catch up from being gone. And the likelihood that you're going to get anything done when you're at the event, other than working the booth or coordinating, handling a box that didn't arrive, getting that last-minute print job done, there's always so much that comes up at the show, and you just want to be present and there and know that you're on top of it. We taught a webinar right before ABA Tech Show that we'll share with everybody who's registered as well, that really dives into that pre and post show planning. So thanks so much, Cathy. And now we get to dive in. So we have broken this down by quarter, and you'll notice as we get into the events that each one has a color at the top. So we have color coded each one of the events based on the type of organizations that you're going to meet there, who registers. And so when you get a copy of the list, which we're going to give you at the end of the presentation, you'll also notice that the color codes match the list that you're provided. So let's start off with quarter one. Cathy, you have a ton of experience with legal tech. Do you want to give us an overview of this event?
Sure. So legal tech, I've attended, participated, and exhibited at easily over 25 years of legal tech New York events, and as most of you who may have participated in the last few years know, it's changed significantly. It's a much smaller event now than it was a few years ago, both in terms of attendance and in terms of exhibit space. That's a result of a number of things, anywhere from the market, the number of exhibitors, and the mergers that have gone on, to the way they handle registrations. Up until just a couple of years ago, anybody could get in with a free exhibit-only pass. And what we saw for a long time, for a number of years, was what I call legal trick-or-treaters, where you'd get small and solo attorneys, New York attorneys, that would come in with their bags and literally trick or treat the booths to get office supplies and goodies for the rest of the year. That has changed a lot. Now there's a $50 exhibit-only pass, so there's a fee for it, and it has eliminated. A few years ago, they were promoting numbers. The show was promoting numbers of 13 to 15,000 attendees. As you can see here, we're looking at more like 9. That's a good number. This is not really a show for smalls and solos, or for vendors who are specifically interested in that segment of the market. They tend to get lost among the other exhibitors. Legal Tech has been trying for the last couple of years to create a small and solo pavilion where they can provide both content and a concentrated area for exhibitors. They haven't put a lot of work into it, and it really hasn't worked out. So unless you really want to be there for brand purposes, if you're after the small and solo market, it's probably not the best event, and it's expensive. You're looking at around at approximately, it's just under $10,000 for just for the booth space. So, but it is still, despite all their problems, it is still the premier legal technology event of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those, PR brand awareness where it's a see and be seen show. And if you're making a commitment to the space, it's definitely something that you should consider having on your list. Thanks for the overview, Cathy.
Sure.
On the next one, do you want to tackle this one as well?
Sure. So this is the ABA section on tax. This is their annual mid-year meeting taking place in January. If you have, this is going to be primarily smaller firms, but there will be tax practitioners from larger firms there. So if you have a product that is specific or of specific value to this practice area, and what we've done here, as you'll see, this is color coded differently than legal tech or some of the other general events. If you've got products that have application in a specific practice area, in this case tax, you're going to want to pay attention to these types of events. So okay. That's what I can add.
Yeah, and the ABA has different divisions, which you're going to see a lot of ABA events in the list today. And we're going through these quarter by quarter so that you can plan out not only spend for the quarter, but also focusing on different practice areas. So going hand in hand with what Cathy was saying at the beginning of the presentation, with those pre and post show campaigns, if you're doing practice area specific events, it's nice to be able to target those in each quarter and do a specific campaign around that practice area, a sales follow-up effort for that particular practice area, and see where you're getting the most traction, as opposed to spreading a general message across your entire list all at once. So ABA Tech Show, hands down my favorite show of the year. This is both a PR brand awareness and solo and small firm shoppers show. So with an attendance of 2,000, you're going to get a mix of media representatives and solo and small firms. Coming from living in Chicago, you can throw a stone in any direction and pretty much hit an attorney's office. So this is something where law firms will pop in, they'll bring their entire team. There's an expo free pass, which really drives that attendance number up. And they'll come in over the course of an afternoon. They'll shop the show. They are very much decision makers ready to proceed with a sales conversation. It is possible to close business on the floor of this show, but it's also one that you should not take lightly. Do not show up to ABA Tech Show with a lackluster booth. Come prepared. This requires about 3 months worth of planning, similar to the planning that you would do for something like Legal Week or Legal Tech New York. And so when you're considering what you're going to prepare for Tech Show, you're going to be with some of the biggest players in the space. So very popular for case management providers or anyone launching a product for the solo and small firm space. This is a see and be seen show. That 2,000 number is also going to include speakers, media, and media partners as well. So you're looking at an effective audience of who you can sell to of between 1,200 and 1,500 attendees over the course of the few days. Anything to add on Tech Show, Cathy?
Sure. One of the things I wanted to mention is that there are at Tech Show a number of opportunities to present. They're all pay to play, but they're not all pay to play, but for the most part, they're pay to play. You can do lunch and learns, different types of presentations to actually get your product out there. What you need to remember is that just like with any of these events, with the event itself or with any of the speaking events, it's really up to you to do your own promotion. If you rely on ABA Tech Show to promote the fact that you're doing a lunch and learn, you're probably going to get a lack, unless you've got a really great topic, you're probably going to have a relatively lackluster attendance, strictly because of competition. So it's really up to you as part of that strategy to market your event to the attendees, to the folks that are potentially going to attend, to your list. This is, even though it is a national show, it's very much a regional show. Like Chelsey said, people will show up from the area and be prepared to buy. So you want to be prepared to sell, but you want to remember that while you're getting national exposure, this is primarily a regional show.
Yes, agreed. And you'll get from Wisconsin, Indiana, some Iowa, generally,
Minnesota.
Minnesota, exactly. A little bit of Michigan. So people do make the trek because it's easy to get to, and you'll get a spread of firms from all of those states.
And I will add that last year they moved from the Chicago Hilton to the Hyatt Regency, and it's a much, much better venue and has much more capacity.
Agreed. And I do feel like it generally elevated the show. Like it really
did.
Gave it a breath of new life, and it just changed the dynamic overall, which included opening up some additional signage opportunities. They did a great job with the staircase entering into the Hyatt, which we'll see again this coming year. So don't be afraid to investigate those options, because there's a lot that you can do there.
Right.
And Cathy, you've got quite a bit of experience with this particular conference. What are your thoughts here?
Okay, so Association of Legal Technologists, or the ALT conference, is actually quite new. They're going into I believe it's their second year. This came out of, for those of you that are familiar with ILTA, which we'll talk about a little bit later, this was founded by a vendor who was dissatisfied with the way ILTA was treating their business partners, their vendors, and didn't feel there was enough of a vendor voice. And there were a lot of changes going on at ILTA, and so they formed this conference, this organization called ALT. They held their first conference last year. They had about 350, 400 attendees. I spoke with the founder recently at the ILTA conference, which, by the way, he still participates in, and they expect to have about 600. This is big law primarily. There's some mid-size, but this is for technology professionals. This is for the CIO, CTO level. So if you have a product that you're marketing into that space, this is definitely something that's worthwhile looking into. And because it's founded by a vendor, the opportunities for speaking and participating are going to be much different than they are for some of the other events.
Yep, and a great organization to build a relationship with. That's the other thing, to think about, especially with specialty associations, is that you're building a relationship with that organization over time. So if you do find success, even if the attendance numbers are a little bit lower, you can get really entrenched with an organization and be a repeat exhibitor, so that you have that really strong brand awareness within a particular group. So when you do find success, maybe cut out some of the events that you aren't seeing return from, and get a bigger booth and double down or increase your advertising spend with an association like this over the course of the year. And Cathy, this is yours as well. you're on a
I guess this was my quarter, huh?
That's right.
So AAJ, we used to know as ATLA, which was the Trial Lawyers Association. It's now the American Association for Justice. They changed their name several years ago. They do two primary events during the year. The first one is the winter conference. This last year it was held in Maui, so they tend to go to nice places. This is the Plaintiff Bar. They are very much a small and solo type of, because of course they're plaintiff attorneys, so we typically you don't see large law firm in the plaintiff space. This is not the mass tort organization, although there is a mass tort element within AAJ. They are highly political. They're based in Washington, D.C. They do a lot of lobbying. They have very strong viewpoints, but they are a good conference. They tend to use less technology than some other practice areas. So they're good candidates for technology and for technology adoption because they haven't fully adopted yet.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree with that. I've heard, really good things. I haven't personally attended AAJ myself, but I have heard great things from, your experiences and the clients that we've worked with together on the return. So, and it's nice to find events like this that haven't been discovered by everyone. I know that there was a lot of new exhibitors at AAJ this year, and I think it's still a relatively unknown show. So I'm always a fan of that, where it's not a massive expo hall, and it's you get a little bit more time with the attendees and a sizable attendance number as well.
Well, and they have great staff, and the folks that attend are really very interested. So it's a good combination.
Excellent. So the ABA Bar Leadership Institute, this is a nice one. We're going to talk also today about NABI, the National Association of Bar Executives Conference. A lot of people go to NABI and they, it's not exactly what you expected. And I find that the BLI, which is also conveniently scheduled, usually around the same time as Tech Show, and both of those are located in Chicago because that's where the ABA headquarters is. So the Bar Leadership Institute is 300 of the Bar Association executives and staff. And also some of the practice management advisors attend this one, which is nice because the BLI gives you an opportunity to sponsor at less of a cost per booth than NABI. And yet you're getting these really meaningful conversations. They're going there to learn how to better run their bar association. And the bar foundations are also there too, which if you do work with any of the legal incubators or that's something that you're looking at pursuing, you're going to be able to have conversations with those not only staff, but their elected officials. So this is the incoming presidents, the past presidents, the executive directors. So you're getting a mix of Bar Association staff that's a little bit different than NABI, and they're also coming there to learn how to increase the value that they have that's bundled with their membership dues. So what can they do to increase membership? What can they do to find value for the members that they serve currently? So this is a great place to approach them about doing something like a member benefit program and to get feedback about your product. So I do recommend this one strongly as a alternative or as a complement to NABI. And Cathy, you've got some experience with NADR.
A little bit, yes. So, and National Association of Disability Representatives is, you're going to find attorneys and non-attorneys. But if you have a product that is specific to the disability practice area, and that it's a very specialized area, then this is the place to be. There's not a huge number of attendees, but there's enough that if if this is important to you, you're going to want to be there. You're going to want to have meaningful discussions with these folks. And because it's not a large event in terms of attendees, you're going to be able to have those meaningful conversations.
Excellent. And this falls into that specialty category as well. So now we're moving into quarter two. And quarter two starts with the Corporate Legal Operations Consortium, or CLOC. And I can honestly say this is one of the best conferences that you will attend throughout the course of the year. Really, really well done. What you need to know about it is that they do something a little bit different. So they have their own, much like the Clio conference or other organizations that are maintaining an overall brand, they have a set style of how the booth looks. So you actually work with their events company to provide your logos and branding and design your booth, because it falls into a particular booth type, so that the entire expo hall looks the same and has a certain look and feel to it, which elevates the overall brand of everyone who attends. I really feel that way. It's just gorgeous when you walk into it. Incredible layout for the attendees, very well thought out configuration as far as food is concerned, which is always great, because as an exhibitor, it's better to be near the food or near the bar where people are congregating, so that they flow into your booth and talk to you. So just overall layout of the expo hall for this one is really fantastic. Corporate and in-house counsel. So CLOC is one of those areas that the corporate legal operations teams are now being held to a much higher standard to adopt technology, to better manage their legal spend overall for their organizations, to focus on, reducing budget or being more productive and efficient with the technology and resources that they have. So they are actively learning about how to use technology to achieve those goals, and are shopping or considering what those technology needs are, and how software needs might be changing for their organization. So it's held in April, really, really strong attendee count, tons of parties happening after hours put on by the vendors, and then also the receptions that come standard with an event like this. So I know, Cathy, you have worked with several clients that have had excellent exhibitor experiences at CLOC. Do you have anything to add to this one?
Well, I think you've covered it pretty well. It's a remarkable organization, and it's grown very quickly. 5 years ago, CLOC didn't exist, and to have an event that garners 2,000 attendees from this space in that short a time period really speaks to the value that's being delivered at these conferences. They're also, in case you're interested in foreign markets as well, CLOC is doing a program. We're not covering outside of the U.S. on this, but they are doing an annual program now in Australia, and they're doing one in the U.K. So they've definitely picked up a lot of interest and a real need that's being perceived in the corporate legal department for operations. Now, operations should not necessarily be confused with technology or CTO, CIO. Legal operations are really folks that are looking at it includes technology, but it's operations of the legal department within a corporate entity.
Yeah, and to your point, Cathy, it's how fast they have grown. One thing I'd also like to add to this, and ILTA, is that this is not a cheap conference to attend. I mean, your tickets, as an attendee, are going to range from between $1,000 and $1,500 or $2,000. So for organizations that are investing in their employees to go, or leaders who are paying on their own dime, they are taking it seriously, and they're making the most out of those few days. So they're in general very engaged.
Right.
Association of Legal Administrators. So you'll notice, similar to the ABA, how they have regional events or they have events throughout the year. The Association of Legal Administrators tells you a couple of things. One, the firm is large enough to actually have an administrator. So if you've been struggling to get market share from the solo or small firms, this is a great event, whether it be the regional or in this case, this is the annual, to go upstream a little bit. So if they're large enough to have a legal administrator, you know that they're going to have a good amount of users, that these are the champions and the advocates within the firm. So if they're considering a switch of providers or they're considering adopting new technology, this is a good place for them to go and learn about it. They're also, at the same time receiving a ton of education and taking in ways to better run their organizations. So that's a great complement of having a conversation in the booth to what they're learning in session. And Cathy, do they have, a quick question, they have any pay-to-play speaking opportunities? Are you familiar with anything there?
They do. There's a number of speaking opportunities, and there's multiple events. This, of course, is their annual event, and then they have they have 6 regions. ALA is very organized. They have local chapters. Then the chapters have come under the purview of a region, and then, of course, the national. And what I would recommend to someone to a firm or a vendor that is starting with ALA is to get started and figure out how to work with ALA and how to maximize your relationship. Start with your local chapter. So if you're in pick a city, Denver, there is an ALA local chapter in Denver, and I would suggest that you start to work with them. It's going to be much lower cost. Figure out how to get your messaging to the right people, how to what the local organization looks like. What you'll find is that historically, or what I've found is that historically, the ALA was really large law firm legal administrators and executive directors. That has changed over the years, and while many of them are still involved, it has they really have evolved into more of a small and mid-size membership. So really starting at 5 attorneys and up, some firms have executive directors or law firm administrators, and that's a very strong market that is very interested. And at the smaller end, they really are decision makers. At the larger end, for most technology, unless it's directly affecting their job function, they're going to be more of an influencer and possibly a gatekeeper. But at the low end, at the smaller end of the market, they're definitely going to have decision-making capability. They may still need to obviously speak with a partner, but they're going to be the ones who are really going to champion your products if they fit their firm.
Yeah, absolutely. And the National Association of Consumer Bankruptcy Attorneys, or NACBA, as many people who know the organization will call it, used to have a couple of events per year. Now this one is labeled in gold because it is a specialty event. So this is a good example of targeting a particular practice area, getting entrenched with the group. They have had rotation of leadership a couple times in this last few years. And they've been a little bit more willing to work with vendors on things like paid speaking arrangements. So this is 100% consumer bankruptcy, so firms that are filing Chapter 7 or Chapter 13 cases. One that if you have a product that fits this group is a good show to attend. And then next is the ABA GP Solo Spring Meeting. So a few ABA events that we've listed this year. Now there's a difference between ABA GP Solo and ABA GP Solo and YLD, which we have listed later in today's presentation. One thing that you just really need to realize with the GP Solo events and be realistic about is getting involved with GP Solo is a good choice. It's a good group to sponsor. This is brand awareness within the solo small firm community and a lower attendance number than you will see with some of the other events. So they do their spring and fall meetings. There's a lot of solo lawyers that participate in committees. So they are going there for committee meetings. They're going there to see their colleagues and their friends and network and say hi. So the expo hall traffic, just keep in mind that this number is 150 attendees of who you're actually going to have a chance to speak to. So you can absolutely pull business out of these events. Just know that you're not going to need to send 2 staff members. You're not going to need to go overboard with staffing for this show. And then the American Immigration Lawyers Association, or AILA, another specialty event specific to practice area. Really, really high attendance number that you'll see from all over the country. So this is their annual event, and especially now with all the policy changes and what's happening with immigration, you'll see a very strong and engaged group attending this show. And Cathy, do you have any comments on AILA before we move on to the next slide?
Well, I think it's one of the larger specialty bar events, and certainly you're going to see in most cases these are going to be smaller firms. They're going to be it may be a practice area, but immigration is a practice area where typically it's not one of many practice areas. It is truly a specialty. They have an excellent organization. They're based out of Washington, D.C. They've got one of the finest practice management advisors in the country on staff, and his name is Reed Trouts, and his endorsement or interest in a product will go a long way toward helping you make headway in this specialty area if it's appropriate to you.
Agreed. And that's something we'll be talking about at the end of the presentation with some of the solo and small firm conferences. When you have a practice management advisor that really advocates for technology and makes technology education a part of the curriculum at their event, you will see much better engagement with the vendors. You'll see a busier expo hall. So Reed's a great example of someone who's really made that happen within his organization. Moving into quarter 3, can't believe that we're halfway through the year already. Now moving into quarter 4 in real life. National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, that's a specialty bar association. Again, a little bit smaller attendance number, but highly engaged group. And this is something where if you have a product for criminal defense practitioners, oftentimes that's the only practice area that they serve. So they're doing DUIs, traffic tickets, that type of thing. And they're really narrowed in the focus of the services that they deliver. Some are general practice, some might be doing a little bit of personal injury, but this is a great group. Also, you see a lot of companies who offer marketing services because, as you know, in a highly competitive practice area, marketing is going to be top of mind for organizations like criminal defense or personal injury. Cathy, any comments on NACDL?
Well, I think you covered NACDL pretty well. I would add that a few years ago, I helped a company launch, and the founder and CEO of the company was a criminal defense attorney. So he naturally moved in this direction when in getting involved with exhibiting. And as it happened, just a few days prior to attending a NACDL event, I went through an exercise with them where we identified buyer personas, and they thought it was going to be just a total waste of time, and why were they doing this, and when they could be doing something else. And I really literally made them sit down, and we spent most of a day going through creating our buyer personas. They went off to this NACDL event, and they came back and they were just raving, and they said, Cathy, the best thing you ever did for us was have us do those buyer personas, because when we got to the show, we knew exactly who we should be spending our time with, and who was just kind of a looky-loo. It really helped us zone in on where our best opportunities are. So while that's true for anyone, it's not just NACDL. I just happened to remember that as we were talking about this particular event.
Yeah, and that's a great point about practice area specific associations in general, is that this gives you a chance to market test in individual practice areas where you're not trying to have a generic spread or an offering for the masses, and see how your conversion rates with each of those individual groups differs. See, American Association for Justice, AAJ, plaintiffs, attorneys, and bar. Cathy, high attendance number here. What have you seen on the floor at this show?
Okay, so this is the other half of this is the second event in the big event in the AAJ calendar. This is a more highly attended event. As you probably saw, the first one was in a couple hundred attendees at the winter mid-year. This is 2,000. It's a much more robust conference. It's a bigger trade show floor. They have booths. They also have what they call pods, which are kind of pre-formatted. You give them your logo. You're among a bank, and it's a good way for a smaller investment to check out an event. The only problem with the pods, which are pretty cost effective, is that you're at their liberty for where they actually locate the bank of pods. So it's not like a trade show floor where you could potentially pick a space. If you go for the pod, you're in a section that they've outlined.
Yeah. And it's nice to have your choice of size as well, because there are pricing differences on some of the smaller events compared to the annuals when the attendee count is different. So
right.
Looking at both of them, what works for you time of the calendar year could also be advantageous if you look at the differences in cost to try one of these out.
Right. Well, and just so that we don't gloss over it, when we in the list that we're providing, the download for the list that we're providing at the end of the event, we have given you there is a cost column, and those costs are obviously, to the best of our knowledge. Everything changes from time to time, so there's no guarantees, but they're also costs based on what is the lowest booth or pod space that you can arrange. So certainly there are other sponsorships, there's other booth costs. I don't want you to think that because we've shown a cost for the lowest, which could be a pod in this case, that's what a 10 by 10 foot booth is going to cost there. But what we tried to do was give you an entry point into the event.
Excellent. And next is ILTA, the International Legal Technology Association. I can't believe that it was just last month. It feels like it was so long ago. But, Cathy, you really represented so many, companies and had a ton of experience with ILTA. This is one I can honestly say is a CIO, CTO. Now you're starting to see, a similar group to Clock coming as well. One of my favorite things about this conference is the fact that you can get a demo room. So at Legal Tech New York or ILTA, you have the option to actually book a demo room. And you will find when you talk to attendees that these CIO and CTO professionals are coming to shop. They are coming to demo. They are coming to carve out those few days where they can make a decision and move forward with an investment. Cathy, notes on ILTA.
Okay, so ILTA is another conference that I've been involved in one way, shape, or form for 25, 26 years. It's ILTA, the organization, is going through some changes. They're actually, there is now a vendor, or they're calling it a business partner council, and the business partners are getting more involved, which is a good thing. You'll find most of the folks that attend are either CIO, CTO of high, mid-size, or large law firms. They have application developers on staff who attend. They've got a whole variety of staff members. An AmLaw 100 type of firm can send, it may send 10, 15, 20 people from different offices and different job descriptions. So a lot really, but it's expensive. Your cost of entry here, your minimum cost of entry is an annual sponsorship at what's currently $12,500, and it goes up from there. And that's the sponsorship, which gives you a right to some discounts on other things like advertising, gives you an opportunity to do road shows. There's other things you can do within the ILTA organization during the year. They're highly competitive, and you've got to plan early. You can do road shows in cities. You can schedule a product briefing that on a Friday. That's essentially a webinar where you can discuss product. It's the only time in a presentation, or the only opportunity to really do product demo or product selling. What you're going to want to do here is really identify, if you're going to book a demo room, which is expensive and not always available, because those go to the folks that take the highest level sponsorships get the first choice of demo rooms, and what's left over is what's left over. So if you go in with a lower end sponsorship, their silver level, then you're going to only have a potential for what might be left over. And at that point, what you want to do with a demo room is to maximize opportunity. So that's a place where you would really want your sales team booking appointments in advance, so that you're not going to the show with a demo room that's sitting empty because you're hoping that you're going to be able to move someone off of the floor into the demo room. Those need to be booked in advance, confirmed, and reconfirmed.
Agreed. A National Association of Bar Executives. So we're going to be moving through these last couple quarters pretty quickly. You'll see repeat events from the ABA, and this is the National Association of Bar Executives. So this is their annual conference combined with the Bar Association Executives Group. So when you attend ABA Annual or NABI separately or together, because they're usually together, you will find that it's Bar Association executives, and then ABA Annual is a mix of all different kinds of firms. So the one thing to know about this conference is that for the cost, it can be hard to target who's actually going to be there. So I would consider this to be a brand awareness play. You will get solo small firms that pop in, because there's committee meetings and other things for all the divisions of the ABA. But it is a smattering of practice areas, of firm sizes, of executives. So this is something that you do and you have on your calendar if you are endorsing the ABA, if you are already working with some Bar Association executives that you can set up meetings with there. But do not consider this to be a lead generating show. And moving on to the Lavender Law Conference. This is actually an interesting one and one that has come about in the last 10 years. So Lavender Law Conference is the LGBT Bar Association. It's one of the only bar associations that sees percent increase in member growth every single year. Year after year after year after year, they're seeing an increase in membership, which is great. And it's a very, very classy, well done conference, one that will include corporate in-house counsel, large firms, government, and law students. They actually host a career fair for the first day of the event, and then they move into policy and discussion. There's a great expo hall, typically with a very beautiful car parked in the middle of it, and amazing food, great people, excellent after hours. It's probably one of the only conferences I've ever been to that had a champagne send off at the end, which was fantastic, with just really, really classy receptions, and attendees are all there having a great time. So if you are not familiar with it, definitely check it out. They have one event per year, and again, that career fair on the first day. Wealth Counsel, practice area specific. So this is estate planning. Lawyers, solo and small firms, they have individual chapters all over the country. Wealth Counsel, if you're not familiar with it, or its sister brand, Elder Counsel, is software for estate planning attorneys that is coupled with a community membership where they get coaching and resources on how to grow their practice. And this is something that they do very, very well with. It's in a very close-knit group, and they allow exhibitors to come and sponsor that are complementary to their offering. So if you have a competing estate planning software, I don't know if they would allow you to attend, but anything that would be complementary to their existing offering, which is the document automation and software library, they're a great group to work with. Association of Legal Administrators, ALA, this is their regional east. So we saw the higher attendance number. The regionals are fantastic opportunities to test the waters with ALA. So maybe you've been trying to go upstream with your product. Maybe this is a test event for you to see if you can sell on the floor at an ALA event. And if you do the regional, it could be, and there's regional east, regional west, and then there's also individual local chapters of the ALA, but in major metropolitan cities. These smaller ones are a great way to get a feel for the organization, see if it's right for you, and then start to build that relationship and plan for placement at their annual when you have success. So moving into Q4 to wrap up the year, we've got ABA GP Solo and YLD, which is the Young Lawyers Division. A little bit higher attendance number here because we've got the YLD adding to that attendance count. Solo and small firm, keep something in mind. We do have a higher attendance number here, but the young lawyers, you have to think about the positioning of your product and a special offer for that group, because a lot of them are going to be starting firms for the first time. Some of them will have just passed the bar and they're figuring out what they're going to do or where they're going to go. So having an offer where maybe if they're a member of YLD, they get to use the product for an extended period of time. So instead of a 1-month trial, maybe you consider offering them a discount for 3 months or 6 months, or maybe that first year if they just passed the bar, you know, giving them an incentive to sign up with your product and use it as they get their practices going. Association of Legal Administrators, or ALA West. So this is the west complement to the east. And again, lower attendance number, great way to dip your toe in the water without having to travel too far. Law Firm 500. Cathy and I have both worked on this event and from the inside, and a couple things I can tell you here. This is one of the only opportunities that you will get to be in front of the clients of a group called How to Manage a Small Law Firm. They're some of the fastest growing law firms in the country. Law Firm 500 is literally a list like the Inc. 500 list, where they have vetted years, I believe it's 3 years of financials for all of the firms that are receiving the Law Firm 500 award. So they have verified employee growth, revenue growth, legitimacy through, tax returns and other things. And that's done by an outside accounting firm. So when you're looking for a great prospect list, Law Firm 500, you're right there. You already know they have revenue. They're growing in number of employees. They're growing in number of potential users. There are solo and small firms that attend because they are trying to grow their practice. So the curriculum and education is very much focused on marketing and finance and sales, and how do we get firms that are business minded in a room focusing on how they are going to make the list, and then rewarding and giving accolades to the firms that have made the Law Firm 500 list with a gala on Saturday night. This year, the speaker in 2018 is Aaron Brockovich. The year before, it was Damon John from Shark Tank. So they bring in some heavy hitting speakers. They've got a really, really great group of attendees, business-minded lawyers that are happy to be there. Cathy, do you have anything to add on Law Firm 500? You were there the first year that they started.
Yeah. Well, in the interest of time, I won't, I don't want to get too long-winded about it. I think the Law Firm 500 is a very valuable list for small law firms, and is a way for small law firms to get national recognition and to promote themselves as well-run businesses. So the concept is, I'm very much in favor of the concept, and they are doing an excellent job of turning it in. It's only in its third year, but they're turning it into a wonderful event.
Yes, agreed. And the Clio conference, Clio diehard fans, 1,500 attendees, media partners, also a very standardized exhibitor booth. So you work with their events company to coordinate what your booth will actually look like. That's designated by the Clio team. They have grown this tremendously. I remember the very first one that was just a couple hundred people. These are Clio users, and then Clio integrated partners and non-partners that come and exhibit at the conference. So business-minded, they're using the software, they're using technology, they're always held in great locations like New Orleans. We'll be heading out here in the next couple weeks for this conference, and they do sell out early. So book your booth space or sponsorship as soon as you can if you're considering attending for next year. And Cathy, you're getting on the road to head to Relativity Fest while I'll be...
I am. Yeah. So Relativity Fest Relativity, of course, is probably the leading platform or product for e-discovery, and much like Clio, it's a user conference, but it's broader than that. This is an e-discovery specific conference. The exhibitors there are limited to integration partners with, they're not limited to. Most of the exhibitors are integration partners. You'll see litigation services companies. It's probably the strongest e-discovery specific event of the year. And they too use the pre-designed exhibit space, which is really a benefit, particularly if you're participating in one of these events, because you don't have to ship your booth, you don't have to ship monitors, you don't have to deal with all of that. Basically, you show up with collateral, swag, and a laptop, and you're in business. So it is a move toward the future. There's a number of conferences doing this, and it really is a benefit to an exhibitor to save on all of the related costs. You don't have to pay for internet, you don't have to pay for electricity, you don't have to pay for carpet, you don't have to pay for labor. It's all built into one cost.
Excellent. And the Association of Corporate Counsel, ACC, we're coming up on the end of the list. Any notes on ACC, Cathy?
Well, ACC obviously is in-house counsel and corporate. It is one of the most expensive events. The minimum cost of entry is $25,000. That does not get you a speaking opportunity, but you're in rarefied air. You've got face-to-face contact with the leaders of the corporate legal departments of primarily mid-size and large corporations. So if that's an area of interest to you, it can be an excellent outlet for you.
Right. And American Intellectual Property Law Association, specialty group focused on IP, 2,200 in attendance. Those are pretty strong numbers, especially for a practice area specific organization. Cathy, any experience here?
No firsthand experience. This again is one that we've included because it's a practice specific area, and if it happens to be one of the practice areas that your products are focused on, it's an excellent opportunity.
Yeah, agreed. And it is hard to target intellectual property specific. And to that point, this is another great way to target within that group that does, business laws are really broad terms. So intellectual property, trademark patents, things like that. This is, again, another intellectual property group with a high attendance, and attendees come for this one from all over the world. So you'll often meet global firms at DRI, the Defense Research Institute.
Okay, so defense research is actually is the defense bar. So it's the other side. You have AAJ on the plaintiff side. This is the defense side. So these are going to be law firms that are defending clients corporately, or they're going to be doing insurance defense work. There's also a lot of insurance carriers in attendance. So if this is purely litigation, I'm sorry, it shouldn't say IP, it should say litigation. So that's our mistake. I apologize for not catching that. So yes, it's litigation, and these are folks that aren't typically as technologically forward as they could be, but they're getting a lot of pressure from insurance carriers that are paying their bills to push down on billing and limit the amount that these firms are charging. So they really need to get into practice tools that are going to help them be more efficient.
Excellent.
DRI has a number of other events of the year, but that's the big one. So.
And state conferences. So we're going to wrap up today with an overview. State conferences will dominate your schedule if you're focusing on the solo and small firm group. June is like rush week. I cannot tell you how much stuff is packed into the month of June. These bar associations listed, Missouri, Minnesota, Georgia, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Florida. I mean, many of them are having their conferences in the month of June because they have that CLE deadline, so they know that they'll be able to get their attendance numbers up. So just know that, you have to plan for how you're going to work that schedule as an organization. You might need to have multiple booths if you're going to attend them back to back or at the same time. Shipping logistics, your costs are going to be higher because you have to overnight to get from one show to the next if you've only got one person doing it and moving that booth from place to place. But the advantage of these is that you're going to go to Missouri or Minnesota or Wisconsin, and you're going to have Oklahoma, you're going to have 600 to 1,000 solo or small firms. Also really low booth costs. So Missouri, the Missouri bar is somewhere around $1,500. You can get a booth and see 1,000 solo and small firms over the course of a couple days. So these are great shows to consider. Some of the strongest practice management advisors, especially when you look at Florida, Oklahoma, and Georgia and Wisconsin as well. Really great, very, very strong practice management teams that are advocating for technology. So if you have questions about the solo small firm state bar conferences, please feel free to jump in. We're going to have a hangout here for a little while to do some Q&A. And you'll also be provided with an email. All you have to do is go to legaltechmg.com/events. There's a form there for you to fill out. We'll also be emailing you, a link after today's session to watch the recording of this presentation. But if you fill this form out, you will receive an email with the list in Excel with the booth cost and a link to the event website so that you can go ahead and pursue those opportunities for 2019. So we're providing you with the Excel, with all the information that was on the slides. Just go here and fill out the form and you'll get an email immediately after to download that list. Anybody have any questions about an event that they saw today or one that was not included in the presentation? We covered a lot of ground. Thank you for hanging out with us for a couple more minutes. All right. And a question has come in, if you can only afford to attend one of the PR events per year, of course, which one would it be? My goodness.
I guess the easy answer to that would be that depends. It would depend a lot on what segment of the market you're trying to reach. Obviously, I think the three big ones that we would identify would be Legal Tech, ABA Tech Show, and ILTA. And I think, certainly ILTA would be larger law firms. So if you're going after smalls and solos, I would suggest Tech Show. If you're going after larger firms or corporate legal, I wouldn't suggest Tech Show if you can only afford one. Legal Tech, if you're launching a product, if you really want to be seen, I would go the Legal Tech route and really work to stand out there in terms of cost. Just in terms of booth cost, your most expensive is going to be ILTA. The least expensive is going to be ABA Tech Show. But I don't think you can base it on cost. I think you really have to look at, what segment of the market. If you're going after everybody from solo to large firms to corporate legal, I have a client like that right now, and we're doing our hard launch at Tech Show because Tech Show is going to cover, at Legal Tech because Legal Tech will cover all that. However, in their case, we're also doing the other ones as well. So.
Yeah, agreed. And by the way, Cathy and I are both more than happy to hop on the phone and do a call with anyone. Here's all of our contact information. You can also go to legaltechmg.com and learn a little bit more about what we do. We'll be posting video of today's session that has been recorded, as well as a link to the list on our website at legaltechmg.com/events. Feel free to reach out to us at any time with any questions, and thank you to everyone for sharing their afternoon with us and spending a few extra minutes as we wrapped up today. Cathy, always a pleasure to speak alongside you, and I will see you in person at the Clio conference soon.
Sounds great. I'll be coming from Relativity, so it'll be a busy week.
That's right. That's right. And Good luck to everyone.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, me too. Me too. And good luck to everyone with your budget planning, and we will see you on the road next year.
Sounds great. Thank you, everyone.